Hi there, it's me again, Jack Wallen, and once again I'm here to talk to you about a book I wrote. Imagine that! This time around, I want to talk about a book that's very near and dear to my heart. And the reason why this book is very near and dear to my heart is because it was the first book that really launched my career as an author. Now, I had written a few other books prior to this one. A Blade Away, Shiro, Gothica, Endgame, maybe. I can't remember exactly the order in which I had written these books, but it was so long ago. Now, understand that when I first started as an author, my goal was to write horror. And I decided at the very beginning that I wasn't going to launch into the genre, the horror genre, until I had the chops to do it justice. Because I didn't want to just throw myself into it, write a horror novel and fail and think, well, I guess I can't do it. So I wrote those first few novels, not as a, I don't want to slight them to say that they were practice novels, because they weren't. Because I'm very proud of those novels, especially Blade Away, because it was the first full-length novel I ever wrote. But I knew that horror was the genre that I wanted to be a part of. And so I waited. And after I wrote, I think, like I said, I think maybe it was Endgame. No, I don't remember. A Blade Away, the Gothica. I can't remember. I really can't. Maybe it says it here in the back of this novel. Let's find out. It does not. Usually it says also by, but c'est la vie. So one day I woke up after taking a nice 6-hour nap, because that's really all I sleep at night. I woke up with a question in my mind. And that question was, what would it be like to turn into a zombie? What would it feel like? What would it sound like? What would it smell like? What would it taste like? And I thought, the only way I can answer that question is to write the book. Yeah. And so I devised a plan to write a novel called I, Zombie I. Now, this is the original cover. It has gone through several iterations since then, and I don't happen to have a paperback copy of the latest cover, which I did, I don't remember, 7, 8, 9 years ago. Maybe not that long. I don't remember. So I'm going to show you this original cover. It's very bad. This was back when because I did all my covers early on, and this was when I really didn't know what I was doing. I believe I have gained significant prowess at that. But okay, anyway, enough preamble. This was the original cover for I, Zombie I. Let me read you the blurb. The virus has spread. The lies have spread. The truth must now be spread. When journalist Jacob Plummer is infected, Jacob turns to the written word to not only ease the pain of change, but to bring to the surface a truth far deeper and deadlier than anyone could have imagined. Incorporating the sarcastic humor... Now, this was a review I started reading. Incorporating the sarcastic humor of, say, Shaun of the Dead and the desperation of 28 Days Later, Wallen managed to blaze a path that felt both original and undeniably refreshing. So, yeah, I'll throw the final cover up on the screen in digital format so you can see what it looks like. You can compare this to that, or wherever I put it. So this book was very interesting. It was an interesting write for me. It was very challenging. And I'll tell you why it was very challenging. And this was kind of silly of me so early on in my career. But I decided for this book I wanted to write it in first person present tense. Yeah, if you're a writer, you know how difficult that is. It's very difficult to pull off well. But I did. I wrote it in first person present tense. And in the process of doing that, I had to come up with a lot of devices to make it happen because essentially you have a journalist, Jacob Plummer, who goes to Germany for a big event, big scientific event that he was supposed to cover. And in the process, he was bitten by a zombie. And of course, he starts to change, he starts to spiral down into the zombie abyss. And he decides early on that he's going to chronicle that spiral. And so I decided that it was going to be a combination of audio, because he was going to record things, and video. Because I realized very early on, he gets into a tussle with a zombie and he can't be chronicling his fight while he's in the middle of battle. So I developed all those tricks to get me through the process, and I finished writing it. And I decided I had been using, I don't even remember who I was using as an editor, but I decided that I needed to step it up. I needed to find a real professional editor. So I hired a professional editor. Her name is right here. I think it's Lynn McNamee. Lynn Odell. I didn't have my glasses on, so I had to squint a little bit. Lynn Odell. So I sent her the file and I said, okay, let's go. Let's do this. And fairly shortly after I sent the file, she sent a reply to me. Or actually, she called me on the phone. And she said, okay, I love this story. I love what you're doing with this story. I love these characters. However, I think we need to rewrite it in third person or first person past tense. It's like, okay, all right. I'd never done that before. I had never rewritten something to that extent. So I said, okay, you're the editor. You know best, because she had been editing for a long time. So I said, okay, let's do it. And then I embarked on what was probably a 6-month process of rewriting and rewriting and rewriting to get it right. And it was a challenge. I would have to say that writing this in first person present tense was a huge challenge. But rewriting this in first person past tense was the biggest challenge I had ever undertaken as an author to that point. Because there were so many there's fine details that had to be changed, and it was crazy. So points of view had to change, and I was shocked that we pulled it off. And I was, at first when she told me that I should rewrite it in past tense, I was a little reluctant. Because as you may or may not know, that one of the things that artists deal with when they're taking their first steps in their medium of choice is that there's a little bit of arrogance involved. So when she mentioned rewriting it, my first thought was, are you kidding me? Why would you want to mess with this? Isn't it perfect? It was not. Not even close. And then I stepped back a little bit and I thought, well, she knows what she's talking about. She's a third person or a third party. Let's just see where it goes. Fast forward 6 months and I realized she was right. And I'm very glad that I hired her and she had the fortitude in her to say, no, let's rewrite this. And the book was exponentially better for the doing. And then I had originally intended this to just be a standalone book. I thought, well, I'm going to write this zombie novel and then move on to something else. The next thing you know, I'm getting labeled the Zombie King because people reading it were saying that I was the Stephen King of the zombie genre. And as much as I am humbled and I appreciated that, I knew they were. I mean, Stephen King is Stephen King. There is no other Stephen King. There is no Stephen King of X genre. There's just Stephen King. But I was grateful. I was grateful, to be honest, that people were reading this book. I was thrilled at the number of people that were reading this book. And it, like I said, this book single-handedly launched my career as a writer. Because prior to this, I couldn't get anybody to read a single book of mine. I was lucky if one person bought a book a month, if that. And then all of a sudden it was like, whoa, okay, great. Now this happened prior to The Walking Dead and the big heyday of the zombie genre. But I thought, okay, well, if it's that popular, I guess I better let's make it a trilogy. Why not? So I said, okay, I'm just going to keep going. The problem is, I'm not going to give anything away, but you can probably put two and two together. The protagonist was bit by a zombie. I mean, what's going to happen, right? And I'll talk about the second book in the series, My Zombie My, later on, because I don't want to get too deep into it. But eventually, this became not just a trilogy, but an entire series, and including all the spin-offs. I think that there are 13 books in this series, and I had fully intended on starting another series called the Book of Jacob. But I think I got really burnt out on the zombie genre. Now, I still have ideas that I could still do the Book of Jacob, but kind of take it off on a left or right turn, even away from the zombie genre. I've already done another post-apocalyptic series. I will talk about that at another time. But the whole idea of the dystopian future is really appealing to me, because it opens up things. You can really let your creative mind just go nutso and create all new worlds. And so if I really get ambitious, I will pick this up again at some point and do the Book of Jacob that I had planned with a few modifications. But I'm very proud of this book because, number one, it proved to me that I could write in the horror genre. It also proved to me that I could write an intelligent horror novel. And that was my goal. Along with, I wanted to write something that people would read and go, this is possible. This is frighteningly possible. So everything I did in this, I did with the idea that I was going to create something that could possibly happen. Now, I did stretch it a little bit, of course, but at the same time, the underpinnings of what this is about does not venture too far away from the realm of the possible. So when you read this, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And it's one of the more frequent points made in the reviews is just that I wrote something that was they lived kind of in the gray area between fact and fiction. And I think that is probably where the horror lies in this novel. It's not so much the gore or anything like that. It's just the reality of it. So if you don't really, and I know there's a lot of people out there that just got really tired of the zombie genre. There was just too much of it. But I think that you don't have to love the zombie genre to enjoy this novel and the entire series, simply because of the way I approached the genre. And it's there's also something special about the characters, I think, and the relationship between the characters, and also the entity that serves as the antagonist is very relatable. Especially now, it really is relatable. If you read it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Because you read this and think, yeah, they're out there. They really are out there. And who knows what they're planning. So, from this series also came the Zombie Radio podcast. I'll talk about that when I talk about the My Zombie My book, because it's integral to that. But that launched a podcast that went on for about 7 years. And it also launched a spin-off series of its own. It was a lot of fun. I had so much fun doing that character. I'll talk about that later again. And I did do a Moments from My Worlds for iZombie, which I'm going to tack on at the end of this video so you can enjoy it. Now, do remember that that was a long time ago, before I really knew what I was doing with video. So it's not, the quality's not the greatest, but you get the idea. And I'm still, even though the quality's a little bit, I'm still really proud of that little video, because it was the first time I got kind of narrative with my videos, with these promotional videos, and told a story. So anyway, that's iZombie. If you have any inkling or desire to dive into the zombie genre, this is a good place to go, because it's not just about zombies. It's about so much more than that. Trust me. Anyway, thank you so very much to the 10 or so people that are regularly watching these videos. I can't even begin to tell you how much I appreciate you. I put a lot of work into these videos, and it's at least I know that some people are watching them. Anyway, you can get iZombie and all of the books associated with this series on Amazon.com. If you would like, you can reach out to me. I can get a paperback with the right cover, or I can even send you the original cover, because these are out of print, autographed and everything. Just let me know. And thank you for being a part of this and giving me a moment of your precious time, because I know that you, my friend, are busy. Thank you so much, and I hope that each and every one of you and the people you love and care about have a wonderful, wonderful day. Zombification. Zombification. Said slowly, it was made more foreign than it was when seen written on paper. I read it and spoke it aloud over and over in slow motion. Why? Because right now, everything I felt was in slow motion, as if the world was creeping past without purpose or meaning. Each breath stretched out minute by minute, until my lungs realized they hadn't breathed in that life-giving gas for far too long. My brain forgot to remind my eyes to blink. My lips were severely chapped. My heart slowed down to the point where it was almost impossible to tell if it was still beating. Slow me down. Zombify me. Ah! Zombification. I, zombie, I. Yes. Another pop culture reference most wouldn't get. Chiasmus. Order. Balance. Inverted parallelism. I would soon become my own chiasmus, an inverted parallel of myself, undone, folded inside out. Bethany cried. I was touched by the sentiment. I tried to comfort her. But the more I tried, the more emotional she became. Until finally, and without warning, she ran off as well. I was left alone. I did not miss that irony. In fact, that irony jumped up and smashed me in the face. It ran up my leg and clamped its vicious fangs on my testicle. Even the thought gives me the chills. I hate getting the chills. And so there I was, in the mess hall, having told the sum total of our little group that I was going to willingly become the thing that we were running from, in hopes to find a cure to save the world. And everyone else needed comforting, but me. I spelled out that irony, in case it wanted to crawl up my leg again and bite my other testicle. I, zombie, I.